Hello, everyone, and welcome to Good to Great Schools Australia's webinar on Bible literacy. This is our second webinar for Bible literacy, and we're delighted you're able to join us today. My name's Julie Grantham. I'm a former teacher, principal, and Director General of Education in Queensland, and currently I'm the Director of Schools for Good to Great Schools Australia. Today, we're looking to present for about 35 minutes and then have 10 minutes for questions and answers. And let me take you through some housekeeping before we turn over to our presenters today. So we've scheduled the 10 minutes, as I said. To see myself and our presenters throughout the webinar, can you please select the gallery view? You'll find this at the top of your screen under View. At the end of the webinar, we'd really appreciate it if you could answer 4 short questions that will help us improve our presentation to you in future webinars. And after the webinar, we will send you a follow-up email with the links to the recording and the presentation decks. To access these, you must be a Good to Great Schools Australia member, and you can sign up for free on our website or via the QR code that's provided at the end of the webinar. So who are we? Well, Good to Great Schools Australia is a not-for-profit organisation, and we provide curriculum and professional learning support to about 3,000 schools from all the states of Australia. Our focus is very much on effective teaching and using programs that have evidence to support that they work. I think our unique point of difference is that how we collaborate to innovate. We start by researching what the evidence says. We listen to teachers, to schools, and to education experts. I'm going to introduce you to some of those education experts today, our curriculum developers. I've already introduced myself, and I've got 3 other members of our team who are with me today to co-present. So first of all, Stephanie. Stephanie's a teaching coach and a curriculum developer at Good to Great Schools Australia, and her job is to support educators to use effective teaching and research-informed resources that improve literacy outcomes for all the learners in our classrooms. Stephanie has extensive experience in direct instruction and also literacy intervention. Her expertise in literacy development and evidence-based teaching practices has shaped her approach to curriculum design. Next, we have Lorraine. So Lorraine is a curriculum developer also with Good to Great Schools. She's working on Bible literacy and our Every Child is Special program. Lorraine is a highly experienced practitioner. She's had 34 years of being a teacher, deputy head and head teacher in UK primary schools. She has extensive experience across the curriculum, focusing on literacy development, religious education, and personal, social and health education. She's very passionate about evidence-based teaching, and she's worked with local schools in the UK to train educators in research-informed practices that enhance student outcomes. And last but not least, Shirley. Shirley's also a curriculum developer with GGSA, working on the Bible literacy and our Every Child is Special program. Shirley has 25 years of experience in primary and secondary education in New Zealand and other international schools. She has a Bachelor of Education and a Diploma of Teaching. She's been an Associate Principal and Principal, but she's also been a National Education Trainer in New Zealand. She reached a real milestone in 2024 when she celebrated the international release of her first published book. So I think you'll agree we've certainly got the expertise that supports the delivery and development of our program, Bible Literacy. So Lorraine's going to get us started today. So Lorraine, over to you.
Thank you, Julie. Hi, everyone. I'm really excited today to be presenting this webinar on our new program, Bible Literacy. This program was created by Noel Pearson and the GGSA team and draws upon Noel's personal Christian experience. This is an introduction written by Noel, and he says that he's passionate about supporting schools and teachers with a particular literacy, and that is Bible literacy. His introduction then goes on to say 2 key points, I think. The programme doesn't seek to proselytise, but it's a resource for Bible knowledge and literacy, and it's up to each school to determine how to use this resource. He goes on to say that Bible literacy will be of interest to the many Christian schools, numbered more than 2,600, and that number's growing every day. Well, in the story selection process, pastors and credentialed religious educators were consulted. This ensured that we've got now a balanced and inclusive representation of Bible stories, and it's also ensured that the programme considers the diversity of Christian denominational perspectives.
So membership to Good to Great Schools Australia is free, and members have access to a wide range of free resources, free curriculum resources, professional learning, and also school improvement as well. So schools who sign up their school team on a free partner school membership have additional free access to our premium programs. And Bible literacy here is a premium program. So the Bible literacy program ensures teachers have the confidence to deliver the subject. So there are chronological, age-appropriate knowledge and skills that are progressively built upon throughout. It's linked to the English content descriptors as well. It's got direct and explicit instruction pedagogy. Phrases or words are explained to ease understanding, and teachers without subject matter expertise or limited planning time to prepare resources can just pick up and teach Bible literacy. So also teachers who are not familiar with the Bible will also find this program extremely useful to teach.
One of the things I'd just like to say there, Steph, is when we're in a school, we often have teachers who don't have the subject expertise. And one of the things that Steph has just outlined there is the comprehensive resource package that is available to resource schools and the teachers. So by having this package and using it in the classrooms and across the school, what you're doing is overcoming that barrier or that deficiency or the lack of confidence someone may have in not having that particular content knowledge. So I think it's a great package to put together that really supports quality education.
Definitely.
Well, Julie, you mentioned possible barriers. Sometimes the school timetabling is a potential barrier, but we've designed this programme so that it is flexible, so that schools can use it however they want. They can combine the lessons or they can separate the lessons out. We've written it so that there are 4 units per year from foundation to year 6, and each unit is 9 weeks of 45-minute lessons. There's 1 lesson per week for 8 weeks and then 1 assessment week. But as I stressed at the beginning, according to school timetabling, flexibility, we've taken that flexibility in mind.
Yeah, so our units also include a complete set of structured lessons, each with clear learning objectives as well. So lessons and learning resources are based on cognitive science to ensure comprehensive skills development. And this is all pre-prepared for teachers as well.
Hi, everyone. So teachers, you'll receive teaching guides as pictured over here. These are comprehensive teaching support materials. There's detailed unit plans for each and week-by-week guides, right down to when you press click on the slides. There are culture and art connections woven throughout each of the lessons. So if we were to look in any of these teaching guides, this is what you would see. You'd start with an overview of what that unit is about and what we're covering. There are the Christian education requirements, which we'll talk about a little bit later as well. But these have been made up through consultation with different Christian education programs in Australia. It matches ACARA English as well, so the Australian English curriculum requirements. And then after this big overview, so you can see what are we learning in this unit and what is it covering, then we have the lesson structure. And it just gives the main points, what each lesson is covering. After that, we have the lesson notes, and these are step by step, right down to the click. So you really don't have to prepare yourself too much beforehand. Just go through the slides, know it. And the good thing about this is that you may have people who are not very familiar with Bible literacy in your school. That doesn't have to be a barrier for you. These teacher guides will give you everything that you need to teach it, even if you're not very familiar with the content yourself. There is a progress test in week 4. And that's linked to the Christian education requirements. And then in week 9, after the 8 weeks of full lessons, there's a summative test, and that covers all 8 lessons that have been covered. And that's again linked to the Christian education requirements.
So our resources include a student workbook as well that minimises the prep time again and keeps student work organised. So this ensures students have time to independently practice what they have learnt in their lessons. So the student workbooks include things like age-appropriate activities, so independent activities to reinforce lesson content, And then there's also story text as well, and there's space for annotations for year 2 to 6. So one of the benefits of student workbooks is that they encourage practice for students to consolidate their learning and apply what they've learned in their lessons.
One of the key parts of Bible literacy is the cultural representation. And I know I can speak as one of the developers. It was probably one of the favorite things for us as we were developing these lessons as well. So artistic representation is a real highlight. You'll see on the covers of each lesson for the senior levels, there are the artworks from all different cultures around the world. From year 3 to 6, there's audio in the different languages featured that match with the culture of that artwork. And the aim is to show languages and the wonder of language around the world, as well as to show the diversity of Christian communities around the world, just to open students' eyes to how Christianity shows itself all over the world.
ዳዊትም እንዲህ አላት፣ አዎን ከአባትሽና በቤቱ ካሉት ሁሉ አስበልጦ በእግዚአብሔር ሕዝብ በእስራኤል ላይ ገዢ አድርጎ በመረጠኝ በእግዚአብሔር ፊት አሸብሽቤአለሁ፣ አሁንም አሸበሽባለሁ።
That's an example.
So let's spend a moment now on assessment, because one of the benefits of our programme is that it includes a robust assessment package for teachers with detailed and easy to use rubrics and assessment guidance at every stage. So each unit has a progress assessment which takes place after lesson 4 in week 4 and tracks the ongoing development through lessons 1 to 4 to assess the comprehension of the content using multiple choice questions. Teachers look for the evidence of the skill progression and the students' understanding of the key concepts. And then in week 9, we have an assessment, a summative assessment test, which is given at the end of each unit. And this has short written responses, which are assessed against the Christian education standards, as well as the ACARA English content. The rubrics provides teachers with a clear criteria for assessing and evaluating students' understanding and performance through the entire unit.
So how do we align within different school system frameworks? We are cross-curricular with ACARA English and Christian descriptors. So you can see what we've done is we've written what the content descriptors are in the teaching guide, and then we highlight which of these are covered in which weeks. So with the Christian frameworks, how do we do that? There's not one set framework for all of Australia that covers all denominations. So what we did is we looked through a number of state and territory school systems. So we referred to the Brisbane Catholic Education, Anglican Schools Commission, Encounter Adventist Education, Christian Education National, and Lutheran Education Australia. And it was a long process of looking what are the similarities, what are the things that are not denomination specific, but things that we can cover, that all denominations would be happy to cover in their program. And so then we synthesized that and reworded things slightly just so that we would cover the bunch of them, and they've become our Christian content descriptors.
So looking at professional learning, we know that preparing well and training teachers for any implementation is essential. And Good to Great Schools Australia has an extensive library of supporting resources, which we've mentioned. If you sign up, you've got access to a range of resources to support the implementation. So I strongly recommend the program module Teach Bible Literacy is completed prior to start delivering the program. So in this module, teachers will learn the content and also get step-by-step advice for the program itself. So our module includes things like an overview of the whole program, teaching practices, strategies and supportive resources, and then also reinforcing key concepts. So it really dives into those key elements.
So I think we've gone through the higher level of what this Bible literacy program presents to you. What I think we should do now, Stephanie and the team, is actually delve down now into a lesson so that our participants can actually see what it is and how we structure the lessons and how we draw upon that resource and that evidence that we've gathered together to develop our program. So, Steph, let's start off with a lesson.
Steph and I are going to take you through a lesson for Foundation to Year 2 before Shirley then takes over and looks at a lesson from Year 3 to Year 6. So we've chosen a lesson from Year 1, Unit 1, and it's Lesson 6, and it's called Crossing the Red Sea, and it tells the story of Moses and the Israelites fleeing Egypt.
Okay, so the Bible literacy lessons for Foundation to 2 use a simple but powerful way to open a lesson. First is what we know. So the recap of the previous lesson, which reviews what students already know and what they've learnt. And next is remember. So we build upon what students already know by remembering a key part of the previous lesson. And then use what you know. So this asks students to apply their knowledge in a quick activity.
The what we are learning slide is the lesson objective. It's a clear statement of what the students will learn during the lesson. The what you will know is the learning goals, which is communicated clearly to the students. And their comprehension is monitored throughout the lesson with frequent checks for understanding against the what you will know. Then we start to delve into the Bible, and the Holy Bible is explained is a special book. Before they then learn about the Old Testament, and they get an outline and learn that the Old Testament is about the world before Jesus, before they then learn that the New Testament is the book that is the part of the Bible that tells the story of Jesus and his life. So then we start to delve even further. The students learn the location of the story that they're going to learn about. They're told that it is in the Old Testament and that it's in the book of Exodus for this particular lesson. I think this is one of the key parts of the lesson to ensure the comprehension of the story for the students. It gives the background information so that they can understand the time and the place of the story. So here, for example, the students are told that the story takes place on the Red Sea and that it's a water to the east of Egypt, and they're told that it's smaller than an ocean but bigger than a lake. So they start to really deepen their understanding of what's going to happen in the story. At this point of the lesson, for Foundation to Year 2, students learn about the story elements, and it starts with the characters. So through lovely animations, students are introduced to the characters. So here they learn that Moses, the Hebrews and the Egyptians are characters in the story. Then through animations, they learn about the setting for the story. So in this story, they learn that the setting is the Red Sea, and they are asked to imagine a huge area of water. The Red Sea was very deep and the water is very warm and salty. So by picturing that setting, again, that deepens their comprehension of the story. The students are then reminded that there are 3 elements to a story: the beginning, the middle and the end, and the teacher outlines what's included in each of those elements. For example, in the middle of the story, we learn more about the characters and what they do. And then comes the flip book. Through beautifully illustrated images, the students come across the story, and it's really brought to life for Foundation to Year 2 with these illustrations. We use short, simple texts with age-appropriate words and concepts. Some of the benefits of these lessons are that the stories are brought to life by exploring the people, the places and the events at a level that students can understand and connect with. It deepens their understanding of Christianity as a faith by teaching about Jesus, the apostles and key Old and New Testament stories, as well as the Christian beliefs. Then students recap on the parts before they study those parts in more detail. So here, this explains the parts of the Bible story that they've just learnt, making links to the characters and the setting. For example, in this story, the teacher will explain that this is the beginning of the story and this is what happens first. This is where you learn about the characters and the setting. At the beginning of crossing the Red Sea, you read about Moses and the Hebrews walking through the desert. Moses and the Hebrews are both characters in the story. So that it reminds the students of the parts of the story. Before it's then broken down further. So there are slides that then show that break down the story in more detail. For example, this is the beginning of this story. And in the flip book, in the actual story itself, it said the Hebrews packed their things and started to leave Egypt. Well, here the children are, it's explained to the children that the Hebrews leave Egypt carrying everything they own. They take their clothes, their food, and their animals with them, and there are so many Hebrews. So it allows the children to really picture what must have been going on at that time so that they can gain a deeper connection and comprehension of the story. This is the same structure for the middle and the end. So, for example, here, it's explained that in the middle of the story, God tells Moses to raise his stick. And when he does, the waters in the sea separate and a long road appears in the middle of the sea. Well, the Hebrews must have been really surprised to see this. The idea of walking through water seems impossible, doesn't it? But the Hebrews walk on the road to the other side. So again, it allows that deeper connection with the story. Now, this page is actually taken from the year two, a year two story, because from year two, annotations are actually introduced to the students. And for year two, they're illustrations rather than words. The teacher explains why note-taking is important. And then in their workbook, they have the Bible story and there's actually space for their annotations. So the teacher will read the sentence. So this first one on this slide, the teacher would read, Adam and Eve were very happy living in the Garden of Eden. And the children would be asked to underline the phrase Garden of Eden. Then the teacher would explain that the Garden of Eden is a very special garden that God created, and that he created the garden for Adam and Eve so that they could be happy and safe and have all they need. And then the children are asked to draw a flower in their student workbook to show that the Garden of Eden is where the story is set, and it helps them to remember the beginning of the story to support their understanding of the story. The What Christians Believe slide is where we introduce and sum up what the Christians believe about parts of the story. It encourages empathy for the students and it builds on their curiosity and allows them to appreciate other cultures and faiths. The key verse. Every story has a key verse which focuses on the important verse from that Bible story for the students. And then we have the hands-on activity which reinforces their learning. The students will use their student workbook, and these tasks are age appropriate with activities such as drawing a line to match the correct word with the picture. And in this lesson, the students will complete the beginning, middle and end activity.
So at the end of the lesson, there's a summary of learning. So this is a recap of the key points learned in the lesson to remind the students what the focus was. And then next is a reflection on learning. So encouraging students to reflect on their comprehension and their understanding of the story's significance. And then finally, we're looking ahead. So there's a preview of the next lesson's content. And now I'll hand over to Shirley to introduce another lesson that we'll go through together.
Before we do that, Steph, one of the things that strikes me with all of what you've presented so far is the beauty of those illustrations, and you know, that I can only imagine the time that the team spent in preparing those lessons and those illustrations. It's just beautiful work, and I think everyone will agree when they see a full picture of those flip books are just amazing. Before I do hand over to Shirley, I'm looking in the Q&A and I still haven't got an open question. So if anyone has got a question so far, can I remind you to add that in there, please? Over to you, Shirley.
Great. So you will notice I'm looking at year 3 to 6, and this example is one from year 4, unit 4, Gift for the King. You will notice that there are many similarities with the junior lesson that Lorraine showed, but there are some key differences as well. So we'll go through both of them. Okay.
Yeah, so one of the similarities is obviously the way we open and close a lesson. So the recite, recall, apply strategy is a simple but powerful way to open a lesson. So step 1 is recite. So students review the key verse from the previous lesson, and this process just encourages students to recite what they have learned to support retention and long-term memory. And then step 2 is recall. So this builds upon the key verse and links to the larger meaning or significance from the previous lesson. And then the final step is apply. So students are asked to apply what they've learned from the previous lesson in a really quick activity.
You'll excuse me, my dog has joined me for this webinar as well. We have the lesson objective, just as we do with the juniors as well, and this is a clear statement of what students will learn in this lesson. Following that, we have the success criteria, indicators of how students will know they've reached the lesson's goals. This is very clear, and its student comprehension is frequently checked throughout the lesson, but we want students to understand, what are we going to get from this lesson? Then the Bible location, we don't go in as much depth about Old Testament, New Testament as the juniors do, but we show the book of the Bible and whether that's the Old Testament or New Testament for the story we're covering. Then in year 5 and 6, we give timelines for historical context, but for all the year levels, we give historic context. So this is just one example where we give the timeline so that students will be able to see where the story happened in line with all the other stories that we're doing that unit, and we add to them as they go. We will also maybe put up photographs of different things from that era. We're talking about the birth of Jesus. We might talk about how people stayed in inns and stables were often in caves, things like that. So it just helps them, again, build their comprehension before we go through the story with them. So up to year 4, when it comes to reading of the passage, the story is narrated. And so we write these according to their reading levels, and we try and use language that they will understand depending on the year level. As soon as they hit year 5 and 6, we use the New Revised Standard Version. And so that we've chosen that for the clarity as well as the being able to comprehend easily at those age levels. And then we also use photographs instead of illustrations from year 3. So you'll see the difference in this text. You'll see it's a lot more, and it's the actual text from year 4 up. Sorry, from year 5 and 6, beg your pardon. So year 5 and 6, it will use the NRSV. This is a year 4 lesson, so this will be narrated instead. After the story, this is when we have comprehension help through study of the passage. And this is going to help us understand the more complex themes, and we unpack the more difficult words. Now, as Lorraine showed, this starts in year 2, but more with illustrations. So as they get older, we deepen that, of course, as well. And so we have notes to annotate. And again, they open up their student workbooks. They see this with spacing in between. The teacher will explain a word, homage, frankincense, myrrh. These children may not have heard of these words before. And then they talk about it, and they have space then to write the meanings. And sometimes there's illustrations as well in their student workbooks. In year 5 and 6, we also cover allusions from the Bible. And this talks about key phrases, figures, events from the Bible story that have become part of common lexicon today, or part of culture. You know, there's many phrases that we use. And actually, as one of the developers who worked on this, I was amazed at, I went, oh yeah, that actually is from the Bible. Well, I use that all the time, and I didn't think of that link. But this just helps students realize how deeply Christian culture and the Bible has infiltrated Western society especially, but also society around the world. And even in Australia, the language and the culture is heavily, heavily influenced by Christianity, which is also why we think it's great to teach Bible literacy. Then the larger meaning, as it was with the juniors as well, this is the deeper meaning and significance of the text, and it helps students develop a deeper understanding of Christianity from the text. We then, from that, unpack what Christians believe. And again, this is a perspective of, regardless of denomination, Christians tend to believe this because the Bible says this. And then we go to the key verse. And again, this is up to your school what you do with this. We don't say that the children have to memorize this, but you may want scripture memorization in the schools, and this could be one way that you do it. We also do have some student activities which will get children to think about and respond to that key verse as well. Then the really special part, I think, for us is the cultural representation. So this happens from year 2. And as Lorraine mentioned right at the start of the webinar, there's a very balanced range of cultures. We actually ensure that in each unit, we're not heavily leaning on one part of the world. We make sure that we're balanced throughout the world for every unit. We talk about the location. And we have the information about the country as well as information about the church within the country. And the photographs will be of Christian communities within that country. And we unpack that a little bit in the notes as well. Then we look at the artwork. And again, this is from year 2 upwards. And this artwork has been curated by an art historian on the GGSA team. It gives clear teaching notes. It helps students observe and reflect on what they see within that artwork, just to deepen their understanding of how that culture has seen that Bible story. After that, we have the audio again. So we look at the key verse, and if we click the play, we're going to hear the key verse in the audio of this culture.
Ka kilil pe panya channel la ma kora nyoring mono wer ka ngarang wali panya iti ngaring jijanga katu. Kaya wali ungo char para nyango chichi panya chuku joko ngonchong ko ampura kanyen nyanga kungka wala panya miril. Mune pupa karera chichi palunya walkuno mune ya palu lango wiru jura ala aungangi chana karinjayano. Panyapu kaul munu chao panti wiru jara kulu. Purno ini nyanga kucharango. Frankincense ngoro munu ngoro kulu.
As you can see, we try to make the lessons as engaging and interactive as possible by using beautiful imagery, photographs, illustrations, connecting to the culture, artwork, as well as auditory through the audio. We want it to be really engaging for the students. Right, so then the apply your understanding. This is the student activity to reinforce the learning. It's age appropriate in their workbooks.
So the closing phase does more than just conclude a lesson, and we looked at this from Foundation to Year 2 as well. It ties together explicit teaching and independent practice. So it ensures that students leave with a clear understanding of what they've learned and how to apply it. So by mastering this phase, teachers can foster confidence, engagement, and readiness for more complex tasks to build upon. So the Revise, Reflect, Connect strategy helps students to consolidate their learning, evaluate their progress, and then prepare for the next steps. So step 1 is revise, where students review what they've learned in this lesson. So this process encourages students to revise the important meanings of the Bible story and what they've learned to support retention in long-term memory as well. And then we have reflection of learning. So this encourages students to reflect on their own comprehension and understanding of the story's significance. The success criteria, which was shared at the beginning of the lesson, here is restated. And students personally reflect on their own learning against these criteria. And this process encourages students to look critically at their learning. And then finally, we have Connect. So similar to Foundation to Year 2, teachers state what the students will learn in the next lesson. So students take ownership of their learning and have a clear focus moving forward. There is no room for questioning. They know exactly what's coming next. And they recognize the relationship and the connection to the learning journey, which is really important. So that summarizes 2 of our lessons, just so you can get the feel of what they actually look like in practice.
And I think everyone would have seen through that demonstration, Steph, the sequencing of how a lesson is set out, the consistency. So teachers have that as part of their repertoire, but students also can expect the routine of how a lesson is developed as well. And I think that's just important. So we have got one question today, and it's from Joe. And Joe says, is this material usable in Sydney Catholic schools and their religious education curriculum? Shirley or Lorraine, did you want to answer it? I can just say we have got Catholic schools across the country using this curriculum and using it as part of their normal delivery in their curriculum program. Shirley or Lorraine, did you want to add anything there?
Yeah, so remember we looked very closely at the Brisbane Catholic Education Standards when compiling the standards for the Christian education for this. So that was actually one of the key ones we started looking at, and then we added the other ones to that as well. So yes, definitely. I don't know how different the Sydney and Brisbane standards are, but remember, because we want this to be cross-denominational, we're not focusing on Catholic specific belief, but we're doing aspects of Bible literacy that all denominations would agree on.
And I think they'd find that in the assessment rubrics as well, wouldn't they? That those outcomes are in line with the Brisbane Catholic education standards. Yeah.
I think one of the things that was very interesting as we were developing this, and we would have team meetings, and there were many people over the course of this development involved from all sorts of church backgrounds. And I know that some of the developers came from a Catholic background, some from more traditional, some from more evangelical. Across the spectrum, you've got them. And the one thing we wanted to make sure was that we would all be able to take this resource and go, that works for this context that I know best. Yeah.
Just from a personal opinion, Joe, my daughter-in-law is a teacher at a Catholic education school. I'm on the Gold Coast, and she uses this program in her classes. So if that gives you some indication of when it can be used and how it can be used. And Annette, thank you for your comment. You're excellent about excellent quality resources. I agree. We haven't got any other questions, but there are other things that have been asked of our developers over time that I think that we could expand on. Today we saw an Ethiopian and an Australian demonstration of culture. What other cultures, Shirley, have, or Lorraine, one of you, what other cultures did you look at that you have included as representative in our programs?
Well, before we started to actually choose different cultures, we ensured that each unit had a breadth of cultures from around the world. We had the 8 different areas, and we made sure that each unit had included a country from one of those areas. So the areas that were chosen were Australian, Indigenous, Oceania, South America, North America, African, Middle Eastern, Asian, Russian, Slavic, and European Christians, to ensure that every unit had that huge diversity of cultures included within it. And I think that's a really key part of the programme.
And it's just made a comment. Can I please repeat how we can access the resources? I certainly will add it. I'll do that at the end. We'll just another question that we often did get asked though was, and when people see those stories, Shirley, how did you come down, because you had such an enormous plethora of stories that you could choose from. How did you actually come through and select those stories?
Yeah, as I mentioned before, it was a long process. First, we look at appropriateness for the age and appropriateness of the content for the children. And then we wanted all the units to have consistent themes throughout. And so a year 1 unit will not have the same theme necessarily as a year 5 unit. However, we do have some things that are the same regardless of what year level you are. These are the hilltop stories, ones that are linked specifically to different events. So all the year levels have Easter stories, Christmas stories, for example. All the year levels have stories about Jesus and his teaching. And all the stories will have something to do with prophecies leading up to Jesus in the Old Testament as well. And so by finding out what's the overriding theme of the Bible, we tried to capture those main points as we went throughout. And then after that, we looked at themes that would make sense for these the younger as well as the older students. And then we found stories that were from the Old as well as the New Testament that would match them. And we do try to cover the Psalms as well, at least a couple of times a year for the older levels as well.
Mm-hmm. Lorraine, I think it would be timely if you just talked about, pardon me, all the resources that are provided to support teachers. Just once again, reiterate what that is.
Yeah, certainly. Well, one of the benefits, I think, of this program is that the teacher can pick up and run with it. Many teachers, I think, may not have the subject knowledge or the time. There's all sorts of constraints on teachers. Well, with our program, you pick up the teacher's guide, and it's a step-by-step, lesson-by-lesson explanation of what to say, what to do, and it has all of the resources to back that up, like the student workbook, which reinforces the pupil's learning. You've also got the lesson slides, but teachers don't also, you don't need to think about the progression of skills or the progression of stories, because we've taken all of that into consideration already by the mapping of those Bible stories. Teachers don't need to be thinking about how to assess it, because we've already we've provided that, and a lot of thought and careful analysis has gone into ensuring that will work, that works really well for every year group. So teachers really don't need to do any lesson planning. It's literally, we've done everything that you can possibly need to deliver an extremely effective Bible literacy package.
Right down to the click. You honestly, if
Yeah.
you needed to, you could pick up the teaching guide, open up the lesson slides. We are looking at click, click. Oh, look, we're on the next slide. Let's go.
Yeah.
Of course, we know that teachers are going to put themselves into it as well, but we have that basic framework there for you.
Yeah,
And
I
it's
think
really, sorry, Julie.
in that expertise, doesn't it? It builds the confidence of the teacher in the presentation. Sorry, Lorraine.
Yeah, I was just going to add to that, because there's a lot of quite difficult concepts that teachers are expected to put across in some of these stories, and we unpick that at a level that the children are going to understand, but also at a level that is easy for the teacher to deliver and feel confident with as they're delivering it. Yeah.
And I think, sorry, Shirley, I don't want to cut you off.
I was going to say, just think we've spent the hours and the hours and the hours unpacking concepts, so you don't have to.
Yeah.
At the same time, we've been very, very intentional to make sure that we are not alienating any denomination from the other, and also not proselytizing. So we want to make sure that any Christian-based school or even non-Christian school could open this and say, look, we are teaching Bible literacy here. And that's definitely what we stick with. And students will come out with a great understanding of Bible literacy without saying, well, I've learned from this lesson to go to this church, or I've learned from this lesson that I'm a bad person, or anything like that. That's not the intent at all. It's to teach solid Bible literacy that everyone can agree with.
Okay, one last one before I answer Lorraine's question about accessing. Steph, just quickly talk about the module, the professional learning module, about teaching Bible literacy.
Yeah, so for some of you who it is completely new and you don't really have a background and you want to gain that support into actually implement this program, so teachers will gain an understanding of the program's framework, instructional strategies, and also assessment methods as well. So they learn explicit teaching techniques, scaffolding strategies, positive engagement practices that will just assist teachers to navigate these biblical texts with clarity and with confidence. So you can be confident not just to read a script, but to do it well. But teachers also learn how to guide students through the Bible stories in historical and cultural context, reinforcing these key literacy skills and also critical thinking as well. So they explore, also our modules explore the actual teaching guides, the student workbooks, and the digital tools that enhance interactive learning and assessment. So that's all unpacked for you if you need that additional support in order to be confident to implement this in the classroom. So the module also provides teachers with strategies for implementing the Bible literacy across other subjects if they want to integrate it into whole school initiatives, for example, or foster community engagement to support learning beyond the classroom as well. So upon completion of the module, teachers are equipped with practical strategies to confidently teach Bible literacy, ensuring that students develop a deeper understanding of the biblical narratives and their broader significance in literature, culture, and history as well. So it really provides a foundation before you go out and teach that if you wanted to.
I think we need to move on. So those questions, even though they weren't asked in our chat this afternoon, they're questions that I know that the team have been asked. So I hope you found that helpful. I think Shirley hit the nail on the head. In our 3,000 schools across Australia that I said that we support, and that's in English, math, science, music, every learning area we can support schools. You will find that teachers are time poor in every one of those schools. And that's what we're aiming to do, is to support every one of those programs with the same careful scaffolding, the demonstration videos, the audios, structured assessment tools, that details teacher support. That is evident in every program that we offer. And if you actually think about that in how you do a whole school-wide delivery, I think as school leadership, one of the things you can guarantee is that you know that in every classroom in your school, there's effective teaching and highly engaged learners. And I just think the work of our developers, needs to be applauded in what they've done. And I think the commitment that GGSA does is to continually improve those resources to support the specialist teachers, but that who are time poor, but also those non-specialist teachers that we have in our schools. So let's answer Lorraine's question. How do we access it? So to access all the materials that you've been presented with today, you do need to be a member of Good to Great Schools Australia. Every resource on our website is free. So there's no fee you have to pay to access any of these resources. You simply have to download them at your school. We offer 2 types of membership. You as an individual teacher can sign up, or what we recommend and strongly recommend is a partner school membership. And Bible literacy sits within that partner school membership, because in that membership there are premium products. And Bible literacy, as you can tell, is a premium product. In my experience as a principal, I think the individual membership, it leads to improvement in a particular classroom, but, the real benefit will come when you have teachers across classrooms implementing our programs with such effective teaching strategies and such great resources. So the development of this Bible literacy program, it actually complements a full suite of other programs that respond to all the learning areas of the Australian curriculum. And an implementation school-wide is much more effective than one individual in one classroom. So everyone, thank you for your attendance today. I hope that you've enjoyed the presentation. I certainly love the passion and the knowledge of our team. I admire them greatly for their intellect, for their commitment, for their real demonstration of commitment to developing these resources on your behalf. So they're actually putting on the teacher's hat and developing as if it was for their own classroom. And I think you'll see when you download our resources and become a member that you will see exactly the commitment and the energy that has been put into the development of these resources. Especially thanks to Stephanie and to Shirley and to Lorraine for the work that you've done today in presenting with me. Can I also encourage everyone to look out for future webinars? I know next week we're doing one on writing. Next Wednesday is writing, and then on June the 4th we're doing Every Child is Special. And Every Child is Special is an incredible program on how to support children in school. It's about their personal development. It's about character development. It's about positive high expectations of every student. And on the slide, so yes, these 2 are also involved in that. So they're loving that work. But all the information is there on that slide. You can use the social media platform to contact us or email us directly. But as I said right at the beginning, you'll get a complete set of everything that we've presented today. So that may take a day or 2 to actually formulate and get ready. But our marketing team will get that out to you. So thanks again, everyone. Thanks to our presenters, and great to see you all. And please, if you have any more questions, email us. We can certainly respond to them. And please join up at that membership, and then you have access to all those products that we presented to you today. Thanks, everyone, and see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.